Welcome to the Mary Dee Show. I'm your host, Mary Dee, here to be your guide as we extract wisdom and life lessons from top CEOs, thought leaders, artists, spiritual luminaries, and wellness experts. My intention is to bring you value in every show that sparks an idea, helps you break a limiting belief, or creates thoughts that up-level your life so that you can know from the deepest depths of your soul that everything you want is available to you and that abundance is your birthright. In 2018, I healed from breast cancer, holistically after surgery, without the use of chemotherapy or pharmaceuticals. I love biohacking and plant medicine and exploring spirituality and what it means to be in relationship with Source so that we can feel whole and complete no matter what life throws at us. My specialty in the business world is strategy and leadership, and my gift to each of you is my ability to listen so that I can help others see themselves. In each episode, I want to sprinkle you with some hope dust, tickle your funny bone, and inspire you to find your inner roar. Get ready to live your most purposeful and joy-filled life now and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us today on the Mary Dee Show. As a very fun intermission, I'm going to have my good friend, Mike Budny. I couldn't explain it to you other than I know what my human design is. If you've studied human design at all, I'm a projector. And according to my design, I'm here to guide. This sounds so conceited, but it's literally how it's laid out. It's called the exemplary human. So I'm actually here to have experiences and then be invited to share them. And as I'm invited to share them, for those that are willing to listen, then they are going to be able to get some wisdom. They're going to get a new perspective shift. They're going to get that aha that they need to move into whatever it is that they need to move into. Migration is the official term of it, but it's whatever they need to migrate into. So maybe they need to migrate into being a better leader, migrate into being a better parent, migrate into being a better just friend. So those are all the advantages I have just by my design. So I really have to give a shout out to God for that one, because I don't know that I picked that. And some people might say I did, but that is part of my design. And I was doing my gene keys, which I know you're a fan of as well.
Yes, definitely.
And it was interesting to also integrate that into my human design and say, oh, my gift is actually listening. That is actually my ultimate gift. That's kind of my pearl. It's my thing. And I was like, oh, okay, got it. And that's part of the gift. It's being able to listen and to hear what people are saying that they're actually not saying out loud, right? So I'm reading between the lines. I'm watching the body language. Sometimes if I have the insight of the person, then I can also go, oh, they're seeing this from a different lens. And then let me show them that there's some other lenses here that they can see this through. And also just being someone who is full of joy. Again, very naturally, my baseline. I didn't have to fight to get to a joyous baseline. My mom would even tell you, I was always an easygoing kid. I was, mad for 2 seconds and then I was done. My sister once cut my hair. She was trying to get my hair straight and I had a really long hair, down to my butt, you guys. And my sister's trying to cut my hair and it's just getting shorter and shorter and shorter until finally it's up to my ears. And I look like a boy. I look like the prince from the Smurfs. I think it was Prince Johann or something like that, but it's like this bowl cut. And that's exactly what I looked like. And I remember looking in the mirror and I was like, oh, I look like a boy. And then my mom said, I just kind of looked at myself for a couple minutes. And then I was like, all right, well, I don't like it. And I walked away. And that was, she said, I never said a word about it again. I was just done. I needed to process it for a couple minutes. And then I was like, all right, I guess it's going to grow back on my way. What can I do about it? Right. And it's just the insight of knowing that some things are out of my control. The hair's going to grow back. And I think that's the part where I see people in general get stuck in life. And that's one of the ways where I feel like I'm unstuck, because I don't go, oh, everything's so permanent. I hear people say, oh, I want to move across the country. And they make it sound like it's so permanent. And I'm like, well, what are you commiserating? Make the move, make the plan, make the move. If you love it, then great, you stay. If you don't like it, you pivot, right? Or if you don't want to take that big of a risk, then go stay for a couple months, go Airbnb it, figure out if you like the area, figure out what you want, and then come back and make the move. But everyone treats every next move like it's so permanent. And I'm like, this is like a big playground. We get to be here, we get to play. So dive in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that actually for a second, because I think there's something underneath the hesitation of that permanence and that maybe internal resistance that gets created in that. And I'm sure it's over big things and even small things. How much of that is them getting in their own way? And what do you see? What's underneath that?
So I think it's different things for different people. Like in the scenario of moving, you might have a person who is in their environment that they're familiar with, right? So anytime we're in familiarity, it's comfortable. And so getting out of familiar territory requires us to be uncomfortable. And I am a firm believer that the biggest growth always happens in those very uncomfortable moments. It's why we tell kids they have growing pains when they're like, oh, I'm sore here. Or when a baby's crying because they're teething, they are having literal growing pains. But it's in those moments of discomfort that they are actually growing. They're literally getting teeth so they can chew food one day. They're literally growing arms and legs longer and muscles and all the things that they need to form. And that's the part that I feel like we're so short-sighted on sometimes is we want a pill, we want a quick fix for everything so it doesn't have to hurt. And it's like, what would happen if we actually started to get more comfortable with a little discomfort? And then I think we would have the moments where we can lean into those and go, why is this showing up? Whether it's adversity, whether it's those decisions that we create in our own mind, which for many people, I think is where the battle is really happening. It's not the situation, it's how they're perceiving it.
Yeah, it's huge, right? It's the idea of it and that illusory imagined thing. And look, I think a good part of at least our first 10 to 15 years of our relationship was me learning how to expand my horizons, being thrown into a lot of uncomfortable situations for me. And I think you have been a good shepherd of that for me in terms of, now I'm not the kind of person who wants to be around a lot of people. I do well in small circumstances. I love being around small groups, but put more than 50 people in a room, and I energetically feel uncomfortable and insecure. And that's been something I've had to face and look at and experience. And there's a lot of scenarios, even bigger or smaller from that just the natural sense of like, oh my gosh, this is scary, or I'm afraid of this, or I don't want to do this is such a natural default. And I feel like you are the opposite of that. Like you're a adventure. I don't want to say the word junkie because that's not fair. but you're somebody seeking and asking and never really veering away from any kind of opportunity and adventure. And I think that there's something in that, the way I've seen you navigate those things, from trips and events to putting yourself in rooms with the right people that you continually show up to, that I think for me, and I think a lot of people like me would look at is that's scary, or that is way uncomfortable.
Yeah. So good.
What would you say to somebody that is maybe on that line of not wanting to push themselves in that way, or not sure how to approach it?
Yeah, I think first let's address going back to your example of how getting in a room is uncomfortable, right? It's because I think naturally, at least during your earlier years, you were definitely a little more introverted. Now, what I found interesting is when I met you, you were doing sales. And so watching you at a table, I remember seeing so much potential in you, because I was like, oh gosh, this guy's young and he doesn't know that he's actually really good yet, because you just didn't have the confidence because you hadn't done it enough times. Right. So you were like, okay, let me kind of follow the script here. Let me do what this, my coach is telling me to do, because I've got to make these sales and I understand how to explain what we do, and I'm upbeat and I'm friendly. So those things were natural for you. And I think watching that evolution of you is great too, because I definitely don't feel like you're that same 18-year-old at all.
I believe in the full potential of people being able to change. Because I know who I was in high school, and emerging out of high school was not. That person was very scared, no self-esteem, and just a lot of shame and guilt carried around.
So to go back to the seed of the question of where does all this come from? So much of showing up in life and showing up boldly has to do actually with working that courage muscle of being able to put aside some shame and guilt and be okay with falling down, even if you do it in front of other people. I have literally tripped over my flip-flops on stage. It's like not flip-flops. I think I made a bad foot choice of sandals. And I literally like stumbled.
I can see the mental image of you doing that actually
it was
came to my mind.
not graceful at all. And you know what? I didn't make a big deal of it. I laughed for a second and I got right back up and walked on stage and finished my talk. And that was it. And you know what's so funny is after that, no one actually remembered the stumble. Everyone remembered the inspiration from the talk. And that was funny to me inside because I went, I didn't make a big deal of it and either did anybody else. And that's the biggest lesson I've learned from guilt and shame is, you know what? I'm going to lean in because I know I am not the only person on the planet that is experiencing guilt or shame in any given area of life. I still remember the moment when I said, I am done with this. And it was, I was married when I was 22 years old.
That's right.
I'd been dating him since I was 19. And our families were they were just on us about we should be married and like we shouldn't be living in sin because we were having sex. Like it was just this whole thing. And it wasn't truly about, do you love each other and do you want to build a life together? And are you compatible? Right. Do you have the compatibility or are you willing to make the compromises that might happen within that if you're
the actual substance of a meaningful, long-term relationship?
Yeah. It was, no one asked us those questions. It was the bigger thing was like, don't live in sin because, you know, you might be
not in the eyes of the Lord.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that was the first piece of like taking on my mother's shame because she also didn't want me to show up at church with the boyfriend that I was clearly sleeping with, but I wasn't married to.
How does that reflect upon her?
Exactly. So now it's her shame. So now I'm taking it on. That was like, okay, I guess it's the next natural step. So we got married and it was a hot mess. He ended up being like an alcoholic. And without us splitting up, I don't think he would have realized that. He ended up going to like AA. There's so many beautiful things that came out of that. But the one thing was I was driving down the freeway and we had gone to counseling. It wasn't working. And I'm driving in my car and I said, God, you either got to kill him or you have to make me love him because I just don't see a way out of this. And because divorce wasn't supposed to be an option.
Yeah.
And it felt so hard. And then I stopped myself and I was like, why did I make the decisions that I made? And really unpacking that with myself, I was like, oh, because of shame, because of guilt, because of all of these beliefs that were passed on to me that I decided could be my beliefs. And the moment I decided to let go of them was the moment I was just so free. And I said, okay, I got it now. I am done making decisions out of guilt, out of shame, and out of scarcity. And the scarcity one I ended up adding in later because I noticed that anytime I made a decision out of scarcity, that was also where I made bad decisions, right? Versus trying to make decisions from a place of power, which is hard to do when you're in a tough situation. I mean, I've been through breast cancer. I've been through a lawsuit with the FTC. Those at the same time, a dog dying. I mean, this is all these things happening to me at one time. It's like, okay, but who am I in this moment? And can I make a decision? What is the most powerful, energetic, aligned place I can make a decision from right now? And that's the difference. That was the difference. And it's the same with walking into those rooms with CEOs and A-type personalities that you've seen me walk into. My advantage is I am a woman. So sometimes people would say that's a disadvantage. But actually, when you are a woman walking into a room full of men or a super masculine room, like I'm also very feminine. So I can lean in and I'm also very nurturing. So I can lean in and say, let me bring you in and show you that I'm not scary. I'm definitely here to get things done, but I'm also not going to be a scary person to deal with, but probably assertive. And like, I want to listen to you. I want to hear you. And I'm very fair. And at the end of the day, that's what I want people to feel is like, I'm fair. You can trust me. And now let's have an open conversation about what you really want or what we need to be talking about and get stuff done. So I think that's part of it. And I'm just not scared to hop in there and ask questions. I'm naturally very curious. So when you talk about my sense of adventure, that is definitely a huge theme for me because I'm willing to go first. I took a walk with a friend the other day, super hot doctor, by the way. I'll just say
side note.
Yeah, side note. So I'm being cool. We take a hike. I'm literally walking through and we get to this place where it's been so much rain that there's a stream and someone's put like a log over it. And I'm like, no problem. I got this. I start walking. I literally get to the end and I lose my balance and I fall into the water. Oh, I am soaked. All of the back of me is just soaking wet. And all I can do is laugh because I'm like, I am just so uncool right now. But you know what? Like, I'm here with my friend. We're having a good time. And oh, well, I fell in the water. And we got up and we laughed about it. And then he was like, no problem. I'll hook you up with some dry clothes. And it was just a fun interaction. And I was like, and you know what? Nothing's lost. Still great friends, still having a good time. And this is life. I'm not afraid to take a fall because I know I can get right back up. Thank you for tuning in today to the Mary Dee Show. Until next time, may abundance always walk beside you. May joy always go before you. And may love always guide you on your path. Thank you for joining us on today's show. I hope that today's session inspires you to live an aligned life where you get to take complete ownership of your feelings and decisions to live in your truth. You can connect with me at www.marydee.com. That's MARYDEE.com. Follow and like us at Facebook or Instagram at The Mary Dee. That's the THE Mary Dee, MARYDEE.